Genesis Project Episode 2. I'm Cole Campbell, and today we are talking about manifestation. Creating the life you deserve, and it's real simple. Not easy, but it's simple. So, this podcast is always free. This is for you, but there is one rule, and that is, in order to receive, you must give. So, if you find this episode useful, share it with someone. What is manifestation? So, manifestation is willing reality into existence. And it's not as easy as it sounds, but it kind of is. And you already do it. And if you are conscious of how to manifest, this is going to make you way better. And if you aren't conscious of how to manifest, this is going to totally change the game. So, really excited to share this one. This has been probably the most powerful thing I've ever done. I didn't even realize I was doing it until recently, probably about a year ago, really. And basically, what we're going to do is we're going to master the steps and the process of creating your own reality. So, manifestation, it's a masculine process. It's you channeling your inner spirit to leave an impression on the material world around you. And again, you probably already do this. It's a really powerful process, though, and most people don't understand what they're doing. And there's people who don't want you to have this power. So Caesar, the Roman Emperor Caesar, he was famous. He lost his mind at a Roman centurion, one of his soldiers, because he taught this to a slave. It's really powerful stuff. Donald Trump uses it, love him or hate him. Secret societies like the Freemasons are masters of it. Manifestation is really, really powerful. It's like a hack. It's like, you can work and never achieve what you want to do if you're not doing the right work. And this is the right work. So we're going to learn enough today to start with, to get you guys off to the races and to make some changes in your life. And then we can fill in the gaps later. But honestly, this is probably even enough. Like, this is going to be a simple and powerful process that's going to make a huge difference for you. But over time, we're going to dive into some specifics. This is kind of like one of the centerpieces to this project, this podcast, this instruction manual. And we'll just get more in depth as time goes on, but you could probably just watch this episode and be good. When learning, one thing that's really important is to try first. So I'm going to give you this episode, and the biggest step that most people miss is action. And the reason most people miss it, as we talked about last week, is because they're scared of failing. So the thing with manifestation, though, is it's so powerful, it's worth the failures. Like, once you watch this episode, I'll lay out the process. You'll be able to work through it really simply. It's all laid out in front of you. There's going to be show notes so you can read through it if you want. Just go out and try. And I promise you will see results. It's probably going to create some chaos, and then you're probably going to get a big win out of it. So just go out and don't think too hard about it. Just do it. And the cool thing about trying first is this one was a hump I recently overcame. Was it gives you more control over the creative process. If you go out and let's say you're learning how to ski or whatever, learning some new thing, if you try it first and you fuck it up and you fall over, then when you get a coach, you're going to learn way quicker because it's weird. It does this weird thing where it invests you, and it's more fun because then you have control over the creative process. It kind of tells your mind like, okay, this is worth me, overcoming my fear and doing. So we're going to have fun with this. It's a weird thing that happens. So there's 4 steps of manifestation. You have to accept the input. You have to understand the problem. You have to internalize the solution. And then you have to act continually. And then all that is going to create a manifestation. And then that's going to be your feedback. And then you're going to take that feedback and you're going to repeat the process all over again. So understand the problem, accept the problem. Accept the input, accept the feedback that the universe is giving you, understand the problem, visualize a solution, and then act out that solution. Easy. Simple. So what does it mean to accept the problem? Well, we all have problems. A lot of them we're probably accepting of, and some of them we've probably given up on. To accept the problem is to stop being okay with it. A really good friend of mine always says you get what you tolerate. And as long as you tolerate a problem, it's going to stick around in your life. It's only once you say, hey, no, I'm done with this. I'm going to make a change and I'm capable of making a change. You need to believe you can make that change. And it's a weird thing that if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. That is manifestation in essence. Whatever you believe, you can manifest into reality. And I don't want to sound like it's some woo-woo process and law of attraction and like all that stuff's important, but they miss a lot of what makes it powerful, which is the hard work. So it's not like you're going to manifest $1 million and it's going to appear in your bank account. Like this is a way of structuring your actions within the most fundamental laws of the universe that's going to make your actions more powerful, and it's going to align them to your goals. And eventually you'll get to those goals, or you'll get to where you need to be, which either way, it's going to be way better than where you're at. Usually it's best to start with so this is where we get into the instructional part of the podcast, and, pause it, rewind it, read the show notes. They're going to be linked below. Take this process seriously. If you actually do it, this is that first step in taking action that's going to be powerful toward manifestation. So if, treat this like an instruction manual and you can come back to it. There's a lot of research went into this. I've been studying this for like over 8 years now. I've dove into some pretty wild places studying this. I've made some pretty huge fuck ups. So just try it out. Don't trust me. Just try it for yourself and see the results for yourself. And if you don't see them, just reach out. I'm here. So it's usually best to start when you're accepting an input, when you're accepting a problem. It's usually best to start with a really fundamental problem. The one that, nags you every day. Maybe you're tired, simple ones. Maybe you're tired of being fat. Maybe you're tired of some bad relationship in your life with your partner or a parent, or maybe you're tired of your job. There's all these problems that we all have, and, these common problems. Just start with the most obvious one, because that's going to give you the most gratification. Even if you don't make any wins really quickly, just working toward it is going to give you that fire, going to keep you going until you get that win. What's frustrating you? What's driving you crazy? Again, what do you think about more than anything else? What's bringing the most negative energy and negative thoughts into your life? Maybe it's something you've given up on. What have you just given up on and accepted, and it's like crushing your spirit? Maybe it's a relationship that hasn't served you in, a couple of years or some time, and you're just kind of going through it, and now, fuck it. I guess, I just got to live with it, whatever. You don't have to, but find a problem that is really core to you and dig deep. What's sapping your energy? What's the thing that drives you crazy the most every single day? It's much easier to manifest true things and by true, I mean you're going with the order of the universe, the laws of nature, the laws of the universe. So find something that's true within you. You know if that relationship's serving you or not. You know if you're supposed to be at your job. You know if there's something soul crushing in your life, and ignore it or not, it's a problem and it's eating away at you. So be truthful with yourself. That's the really important step here. Is most people are really afraid to say I was wrong. Those are like the most powerful words in the universe, is I was wrong. And once you can say those words, that's a huge part of this process. So now's the action part. Pause the video and write down a list of everything you think is wrong, and get detailed about it. Why is it wrong? Get some emotion in there. How does it make you feel? Pause it and go write that down. Don't make it official. Grab the first piece of paper or open up a notepad on your computer or your phone. Just do it. If you don't act, you don't win. All right, now you got your big, beautiful list in front of you. Let's talk about the problem. So look at the problems on your list, pick the most pressing one, and understand, why is it a problem? What emotions do you have toward the problem? How does it make you feel? Even think back to the past. Maybe you've kind of deadened yourself to it. How did it make you feel in the past? How do you feel having lived with this problem for so long? Does it trigger some kind of old wound? Maybe it's some thing that happened to you years ago, a breakup you never got over, or some injury that's been plaguing you ever since, or, what's the root cause of this problem? And even if you don't know the root cause, just take a stab at it. Chances are you're going to be either right or close to right. Your intuition's really powerful. Write out the problem, whichever one you want to choose, in as much detail as possible. And if you don't know which one's the biggest problem, I mean, you probably already do. Intuition's powerful, but write down a couple and just it'll come clear as you write and write and write. Or maybe you feel comfortable talking into a camera, or just describe the problem in detail in a way that you can look at it on paper, on video, or whatever, and make it clear to yourself. Putting your intentions out into the universe is a powerful part of manifestation. You've got to put it out there, and you've got to send out waves. It's a masculine process, right? You've just got to throw it out there, and it's going to come back to you. All right, so pause, write down your problems, pour your heart out onto this piece of paper, and we'll get back to it in just a second. All right, next, now you got your problem. You've chosen which one. Now let's visualize the solution. Let's make a hypothesis. So this is where it gets fun. So we've been sitting and moping about our problems and working through them and thinking about them. Now let's take action. Let's fix it. Let's make a hypothesis on a solution to the problem, because we don't know what's going to solve it. I never know what's going to solve my problems. I just think, I'm upset about this thing, and what's something I can do about it? And then you just go do it. And it might be the wrong thing, but it's going to bring you that step closer to the goal. So the real core of this, the most powerful way I can explain this, is visualize your ideal life. Whatever that looks like to you, don't think too hard about it. What is your ideal life? And more specifically, let's not get that big too soon, but how is your life better without this problem? Maybe you're broke right now, and maybe you want to have a bunch of money, but the goal is not to have a bunch of money. Money doesn't mean anything. It's fake money. It has no intrinsic value. It's kind of a scam, but money is really useful. And so think about the emotional part of why you want to solve this problem. Do you want to be rich so you can pay your mom's mortgage off? Do you want to be rich so you can, support your kids eventually, or if you already have kids? Do you want to be rich so you can have a yacht? Like, material things are fine. Like, if you just want to, be comfortable and retired, and what is your, figure out not what go really deep into the problem. Figure out the emotional root of why you want to solve this problem, whether it's giving back or whether it's, you've had a hard life and you want some comfort. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Just make it personal, make it emotional. And don't be afraid to have big intentions. Manifestation is innately going to require effort. And it's a lot easier to put out effort and to be inspired and persevere through the shitty failure part of it if you have a big intention and a big dream. So don't be afraid to make it big. In my experience, it's going to come true. So why waste your time on something that's not your ultimate goal, your highest goal? And that's not to say that it's not like you're going to have to wait longer to achieve that goal if it's a bigger goal or whatever. It's like, that's going to put you on the right path. You can always change that goal up, but having that big aspirational thing to trend toward, you're going to have wins along the route. And then maybe you change your goal. Maybe it's over here now. Well, you're still going pretty much the same direction. Like, you're not going to be totally wrong about this. So set a big intention. You'll start to see results immediately, even if they're internal. Even if you just feel better because you're solving your problems, that's fine. That's a step on the path. So don't be ashamed of any of your manifestations. Don't be ashamed if you want tons of money, or you want to have a lot of good sex, or whatever these like sinful desires we have. Just do it. Just write it down. Just be truthful with yourself. So we're done with the visualization and creating the vision of the life you want to live without your problem. Now let's talk about a hypothesis. So there's two parts to your hypothesis. There's where do I want to be eventually, which is that end goal, and then what's my first step today that I can take to get there? Because you're never going to be in the future. None of us has ever existed in the future or the past. So it's it's great to make out a big plan, and some people need that, some people don't. But what I've found useful is just end goal, first step. And then once you do that first step, it's just the next step. It's just wake up tomorrow. What's going on today? And just make iterative steps toward your goal. Don't be too worried about it. Just move the needle. Even if it's, there's some days where you're not going to move the needle, but just keep ticking the box every day. And it doesn't need to be like day by day. Like, let's say you want to stop biting your nails, for example. Every time you bring your hand up to your mouth, you have that, just be more conscious of it. Oh, I'm doing that because I feel anxious or whatever it is. Just keep the intention in mind, and eventually that intention will manifest into actions. It might not be immediate, but it'll start internally and then it'll start to flow outward. So that brings us into, now we've got our vision of our ideal life. We've got our first step and our ultimate goal written down. So pause, write those down. Next, we're going to talk about action. So already covered this a little bit, but act continually and with as much focus as possible. Maybe you got a 9-to-5 job and you want to become a pro snowboarder, pro golfer. Maybe you want to build a relationship, but it's tough right now because the government wants you to stay in your house. Whatever it is, there's always going to be obstacles, but just keep making action. And keep focused on the goal. It's really helpful to have it in front of you, whether you have it written down and somewhere where, on the bathroom mirror, a lot of people like to do, or on your computer monitor, so that every time you open it up, you see your goal. Whatever it is, just keep it in front of you. Make it real. Think about it all the time, and that will incentivize you to take action. Dude, like sometimes there's days where I just sit on the couch and eat ice cream. I'm just totally drained. I do not take any action. Like, it's fine, but you've just got to keep getting up and keep acting and just piece by piece move the needle. Because life is gonna suck to some degree, whether you're sitting on the couch or whether you're working toward your goals. So, like, do you want life to suck and you're fat and depressed and have a shitty job and you don't do anything, or do you want your life to suck to that same level, but you're moving forward and your fulfillment, a large part of it is just action. That's a really big secret to fulfillment, is just doing something valuable, whether it's for yourself or the external world. So the big thing with action is it's a gradient. So the material world, all this stuff around us, is really hard to change. Action, think of it like there's two worlds. There's the material world, which is all the stuff around us, all of the manifestations of the people around us and the technology we interact with, and the natural world. But there's also a level below it. And a lot of people like to think of it like energy, or if you're religious, you might think of it as like the spiritual world, but or like the quantum world. But the gist of it is everything we are is energy. And sometimes it manifests physically, but for the most part, everything starts in this energetic center. You can feel your own energy, your own being, your own self. We all have that point of self within us, that singularity, that little bit of us that's truly us, and that expands outward into the world, and it manifests as your physical body and the environment, the relationships you have, and all that. So the change isn't going to show up in the physical world. Just like if you go to the gym, you're going to go to the gym for 6 weeks, 12 weeks, depending on how effective you are, before you even have a chance of seeing progress, and before other people are going to see progress. So you have to understand that, and then if you choose, an even bigger goal, the change is probably going to happen a lot more internally, because you're going to have to rise to the goal. So you're probably going to have to face some demons within yourself, and that's a big part of it. But whatever physical manifestation you want to see, is going to take some time. But you will feel the results immediately. As soon as you start taking action, as I said, action is really key to fulfillment, just knowing that you're in control of your destiny and your goals. But you're going to start solving problems, like little things internally, and you're going to say, I'm thinking about this in this different way, and maybe I should talk to myself more positively, or, you might have 1,000 negative thoughts about whatever your big problem is every day, and maybe now you've only got 998, and tomorrow it's 990, and then, you start to chip away at whatever your problem is inside, and then all of a sudden it loses its power over you, and then all of a sudden it manifests in the physical world. So, act continually, go with the flow. Some days you are just, some days you're going to win big. Some days you're going to be high on life. Some days you're just going to lay on the couch and be a piece of shit, and that's fine. Just keep piling up wins, and more importantly, the wins are the result. Keep piling up actions. Act, and don't stop. And pay attention to the wins, because that's what's going to feed that next action. You've got to give yourself a reward. You got to feel good about yourself. And that just starts with trying. Like, just try to feel good about yourself. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, maybe, but it's like a muscle. You work it enough and you build the habit, and it's automatic. It's stronger, better, happier. So one thing that people get seized with when they go to act is they're seized with fear of risk. Oh, if I start acting toward this, are people going to think I'm being weird? Am I going to lose my relationships? Am I going to get fired from my job? Is this going to have this cataclysmic effect on my personality that I'm going to break myself or damage myself in some way? Or it could be a more material thing, if I start going to the gym, what if I hurt myself? Or, very, very simple thing, risk. And most people think risk is this big conflated thing and they need an expert to solve it. But for 99% of the things that anybody does, whether you're Jeff Bezos or whether you're nobody, the risks are really obvious. All you got to do is ask someone. They don't need to be an expert. They just need to have a different perspective from you. They just need to be outside of yourself. So go ask a couple people. Usually I'll ask anywhere from 1 to 5 people, depending on how big the problem is and how familiar I am with it. And just normal people are really good at poking holes in things and saying, oh, what about that? And then you'll find 99.99% of the risks. And chances are, if you look at those risks afterward, you're going to realize they weren't that big anyway, but at least now I'm confident and I'm comfortable, and now I can take action without being scared of the risk. Or being less scared, probably. So as you go through this process of acting, human memories are terribly fallible. If you go look at that exponential curve where it goes to the side and then all of a sudden, boom, it shoots up. Your memory is basically the exact opposite. You start with a perfect memory and then very quickly it falls off and you forget 90% of what you knew. So as you act, you're going to forget a lot of the emotions, and you're going to forget a lot of the powerful stuff that holds those memories in that, I've been acting for a month and I don't, I'm no farther ahead and this is a waste of time. So my solution to this has been keep a journal. And a lot of people overcomplicate this one too. Just write stuff down. Literally, just I do it as a notepad on my computer. I have this hotkey I press, and with one click, it enters the date and time. And then I just type a bunch of random gibberish. If anybody else read my journal, they wouldn't have a fucking clue what any of it was. It's literally just it could be 3 words, could be an entire paragraph, it could be a novel, but I just random thoughts I have throughout the day. Even if they're not important, if there's a slight chance it could be useful, I just jot it down. And there's no process, there's no structure. I've experimented with different structures. That's fine if you want to do that. Like I said, don't think about it too hard. If a structure seems natural, go download some journal template or go buy some book on Amazon or whatever it is. Just start writing down, because what's going to happen is then you're going to be in that depressed place in a month and be fuck, man, I haven't made any progress. But then you're going to go read through that journal and you're going to be oh, you know what? I'm thinking a lot more positively about this, or oh, like maybe it's like maybe you're getting fit, and maybe you look at your progress pics, and you've taken a progress picture every day, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, I am a little bit more fit, or like I can look in the mirror and feel better about myself, even though I don't look much different. Like I just I'm proud of this, and it gives you that, it takes that fallible, exponentially decaying memory, and it keeps it at a consistent level. So you can't trick yourself into thinking you're useless, or trick yourself into thinking you're a piece of shit. You gotta understand that you're human and you're fallible. It could be pictures, it could be voice notes or videos, or a physical paper, or it could be sticky notes, or it could be a tally. Just figure out some way to track your progress. Don't think about it too hard. Just do something. And if you need to change it up, change it up. Like just keep experimenting. And my journal has become the single most valuable thing I've ever done. I've probably 5 or 6, maybe closer. Yeah, probably over 5 or 6 years now. And I can look back through that, and I can track, I've become a whole different person, probably 2 or 3 times through that. It is powerful. It is probably, of all the actions you're going to do, putting a physical reminder and paper trail of your progress is probably going to be the biggest one, besides actually acting it out. And again, it doesn't matter what form that paper trail is, just make it. And eventually you'll start to see the patterns in the map of yourself, and you'll be able to see pitfalls and be like, oh, well, I do this every month, or every week, come Friday, I'm all fucked up. And then every Sunday I'm fucked up because I've been drinking all weekend. And you'll start to see these patterns, and you can't hide from them anymore. And it makes you responsible to yourself. And that's going to lead to the change you want. It's going to be painful, but again, it's painful, doing nothing and being a piece of shit anyway. So you might as well choose the pain that's going to make your life better eventually. Next step is feedback to inform your actions. So this comes from the journal. You're going to start to see that feedback like we just talked about. You're going to start to see patterns. But more directly, you're going to make an action, and that action is going to come back to you. Maybe you have a tough conversation with your girlfriend, and her feedback is, she freaks out at you, or maybe it has a really positive effect and it changes your relationship and it's way better. Either way, what you did was either right or wrong, or somewhat right or somewhat wrong. And you can say, okay, well, the next step or the next thing I try, I'm going to do it similar to that, but I'm going to do it differently, or I'm going to do it totally differently. So this is a loop, right? You never stop this process of manifesting and then checking your results and then manifesting again based on that. And you're always trending toward that goal, whatever that goal is. And, again, you might change the definition of it, but you're always striving for the highest version of yourself in small or in big ways. So the feedback is going to guide that next round of manifestation, where you're going to say, okay, well, based on this feedback, I thought the problem was this, but it's actually this. And based on it being that, I'm going to, understand the problem, and I'm going to dig into these new emotions. And maybe, I thought I was angry about this thing, but I'm really, I'm hurting from this other thing that I didn't realize it was at the time. And then you're going to form a new hypothesis, and you're going to say, okay, well, I tried to solve it that way. I'm going to solve it this way now. And then you're going to go act, and you're going to do either, the same thing again because it worked great, or you're going to do a different thing, and you're going to get that another step closer. And it's just a cycle. It's not some habit you do for 30 days and it gets ingrained. No, this is the cycle. You're already doing this anyway. Just be conscious of it and start to take control of that cycle and say, okay, well, instead of, maybe you're stuck in a job you hate, you're going to say, okay, well, I still have to go to work every day, 9 to 5, but now I'm going to take control of that cycle. And that's now a means to an end. And every evening I'm going to work, I'm going to do a course, I'm going to, up my skills, I'm going to start applying for jobs, and take control of the manifestation cycle and put yourself first in that cycle, and be conscious of why you're taking the actions you're taking. And that becomes very powerful. So when you're following this, trust your gut. You're not going to know what to do. Just trust yourself. And that's like a muscle too, that, you're probably not going to have a good gut intuition if you're like most people these days. And there's a lot of reasons to that. We'll get into those in future episodes. But all you got to do is try. And eventually you'll start to get that intuition. You can use other people to help you, ask for advice from others. I would not be where I am without all the wonderful people around me. Love you all. And you know what to do. Most of us have forgotten that we know that we have this intuition. So that's going to help you. You're going to start out with more of an intellectual way of thinking, like, okay, well, here's the problem, and here's, based on the numbers or based on the advice I've been given or based on this blog post, this is the action I'm going to try. But eventually you just kind of get a feel for what's right. And that's when manifestation really kicks into high gear, where you just know what to do and you're kind of flowing through life directly toward your goals. It's a really cool feeling, I promise. And manifestation. So let's talk about the consequences. What's going to happen once you start doing this so this is really big, and I don't want it to sound scary, but it's kind of the ultimate purpose that's going to fulfill you in life. Is when you act toward your ultimate purpose, you also become responsible for yourself. And what that means is that there's nobody else who is in charge of your life. You are, whether you have a boss or not, or whether, you're in a state right now where you're not happy with that current state, you are now responsible for your actions. And every time you win, you're responsible for that. And every time you lose, you're responsible for that. So it does become a bit of an emotional roller coaster, because a lot of people are used to hiding from their problems, and it causes, more and more suffering over time. Once you start facing your problems, it becomes a little more chaotic, but you're not going to die. Like, it's a little more emotional, and you'll learn to get used to the emotions. And it's just like lifting weights. Like, the weights don't get lighter, you just get stronger. You get better at taking the burden. And then the more burden you can take, the more of a leader you are, the more you win, the more you're rewarded, the more people around you, respect you. Whatever your drive is, whatever you need from the material world, once you start to take responsibility for your actions, you become way better at getting that. Emotion is energy in motion. So now that you're starting to act, you're putting that energy in motion. And yeah, it is going to be emotional. It's going to be a roller coaster. Like, it's fun. It's addicting, and you can handle it. Manifestation opens up a lot of polarity too. Try and fail, right and wrong, your left brain and your right brain. Your left brain is creative and random. It's the part of you that says, it's the part of you that gets angry and emotional. It's the part of you that says, I want this. I don't give a fuck what stands in my way. It's the part of you that just, is funny. It's the part of you that is emotional. I forget if I said that. It's creative and random. It's the part of you that creates reality. It's the part of you that's going to go out there and, push your manifestation into existence. And then your right brain is the logical part. And it represents law and determinism. And law doesn't mean like the criminal code or whatever government laws are set out. Law means the universe works like this. You can't change it. So if you break the law, you're going to feel the consequences. Gravity's a law. You can not believe in gravity. You can say fuck gravity, but you're still going to fall down if you jump off a building. So what happens as we manifest is we create and we say, okay, I have this problem to solve. I'm just going to do this. And you act. And when you fail, what happened is you came up against one of the laws of the universe and you broke it, and it knocked you on your ass. And you're going to say, okay, well, I tried this, and okay, I think this is why I got knocked on my ass, so I'm going to do it this way again. And then you try again. And, maybe you figure out how to exist in harmony with that law of nature. And we'll get into these in a later episode. Or maybe you get knocked on your ass again. But once you find what's true, once you find the truth to what you're trying to do and how to create in harmony with nature and with the universe and with the people and the world around us, you stop hitting that brick wall. Maybe you hit the guardrail a little bit, but eventually you start to realize, oh, okay, well, if I do this in this way, things just kind of flow. Like you solve the problem and you move on, and then you go to a bigger problem. But you need to understand that if you have a consequence and you don't understand it, and you're sitting here and you're thinking, man, what did I do? Like, this is just random. There's no randomness. Your actions have consequences, and if you don't understand the consequence, it's not luck. It's just a system, a law you don't understand yet. So it's really crucial to understand the feedback step and understand, okay, there's some law of the universe that I'm going up against and I'm not doing it right. So how do I figure that out, and how do I live in harmony with it? All right, we're going to get spicy here for a minute. What's a good example of manifestation? And I saw this on Twitter the other day, and you can probably already guess who it is. It's Donald Trump. So love him or hate him. If you love him, great, learn from him. If you hate him, great, learn from him, and then use his powers for good. Whatever you believe, he's just another person, just like you, but he's really, really good at manifestation, for better or for worse. So, and what I mean by that is, go watch an old Donald Trump video from like the 70s or the 80s, and chances are, what's he talking about? He's talking about real estate, obviously, but I've seen like a dozen videos where he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to become president. Like, maybe I'll run next year, or like, yeah, I'm going to be the president one day. And like, think that's like the 70s, the 80s. That's like 40, 50 years, right? Like, he's been working on this for a while. It's a pretty big, audacious goal, but what do you know? He got it. And the guy is manifesting all the time. Like, I was on Twitter, and what made me think of this is his daughter, Ivanka, posted a picture of him with his head like superimposed over Mount Rushmore. So you've got like all the US presidents on Mount Rushmore over here, and then he's like standing in front of it, and he's just like looking all cool. And it's like, that is manifestation. That's like putting an image into reality that you want to become real. And again, like, I'm not making a comment on Donald Trump and if he's good or bad, but understand that he's putting that image out in front of a bunch of people. And there's essentially two groups. There's one group that's saying, yeah, I love Donald Trump and I want to see his head on Mount Rushmore and blah, blah, blah. And they're giving him their energy. And then there's the other group that's like, man, fuck Donald Trump. He's evil. He's racist. He's whatever. But they've also got that image in their heads. So they're giving him their energy too. And he's not giving them his energy though, right? He's doing what he thinks he needs to do to live his best life. But there's all these people giving him their energy and supporting his manifestation. Now they're all, whether they love it or they hate it, they're working on his manifestation too. It's in their minds. It's coming closer to reality. The people who hate him aren't thinking, man, most of them aren't thinking, man, I wish, that was Joe Biden's head or whoever on Mount Rushmore. They're just thinking about, fuck Donald Trump, right? And he's in their minds. So your takeaway from this is, the more you can recruit others into your manifestation, the more powerful it gets. And if you focus on your own manifestations, that doesn't mean you have to be selfish. You can manifest gifts for others, but you have to focus on what you really want. And if you get caught up in the outside world, you're spending less time on your own vision of reality. And, you can work with others, you can share manifestations, you can, have like a business partner or a romantic partner or, your family or some volunteer group, whatever, you can manifest with other people, but you have to make sure that it comes from your own truth. And another really good point about, we talked about Donald Trump. Let's talk about politics. So there's all these systems of humanity, good or bad, that have been programming you since birth. They even call it TV programming. That's not an accident. And what I mean by this is, when you go to school, what your parents teach you was right and wrong, what they didn't teach you, what you hear from friends, when you're a kid on the playground and you do something that people don't like and they ostracize you, you get all these inputs that say, hey, you did the right thing or you did the wrong thing. And it starts to guide your actions. And you say, oh God, that was painful. I got rejected when I was like 13 years old by this girl. And you internalize that and you say, all right, either that didn't kill me and it made me stronger and I'm going to go out again, or maybe you internalize that and it impacts your actions in a negative way. Whatever, we've been programmed, and you can program yourself. You can say, oh well, I learned a little bit about economics in high school, but that I really don't know how money works, and I'm broke right now and I can't control my spending, so I'm going to go find a really good book or a really good video course on accounting or personal budgeting, and I'm going to go learn a better system for it. So once you start to realize you have been programmed, whether you accepted the programming or whether you consciously accepted the programming or consciously sought the programming, and you can overwrite that programming. So this would be part of the understanding the problems phase of manifestation, is saying, okay, well, the person I am now has all these problems, so I'm going to create a new version of me. Doesn't mean you have to change who you are. It just means you're learning new skills and you're learning a new way to express who you truly are. Whether it's, like I said, through a course or a book, or just changing an action. Maybe you talk to your friends and you're like, hey, I'm having this problem. And they say, oh, well, maybe you should quit doing this, or maybe do more of this, or, go get a coach. Or all you've got to do is you've got to start programming yourself. You've got to start ingesting knowledge that's going to serve the person you want to become. And that's hard. I've gone through I've gone through two really hard periods in my life where I had to look at myself and face some pretty nasty truths and realize I wasn't the person who was capable of doing what I wanted to achieve. And they've been pretty long, drawn out processes, ultimately really rewarding. But you're going to have, if you're only becoming aware of your power to manifest now, you're going to have a backlog. And you're going to have probably some deeper problems. They're going to be buried under layers of coping mechanisms. And you're going to start to peel away the layers. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be exhilarating. But it is going to take some time to get to the deepest problems. So this is a way of being. This is not a thing you do. This is a way you are. Is you manifest. You're not someone who passively accepts what happens to you. You accept what happens, and then you figure out that response, that action step that everybody's missing. You don't just act automatically out of some coping mechanism. You don't just pick up your phone. You sit through it and you say, oh, that was really that was really pleasant and I want more of it, and you act toward that. Or you say, oh, that sucked, man, I don't want that again. And you think, okay, well, next time I'll do this. So you just have to be conscious of what's going on. If you're not conscious of your fitness, you get fat. If you're not conscious of your spending, you go broke. So just be conscious of the fact that you control your reality, and don't beat yourself up. Keep acting, do your best. Fear isn't real. The fears in your head almost never come true. And as you start to journal, it's going to be cool. You're going to, maybe you'll write down, oh, I'm scared of this, or I really want to take action, but I'm worried about this. And then you'll go back to it sometime later and you'll be like, oh, wow, that never happened. And that was never going to happen. I was crazy. My brain was trying to keep me comfortable and it wanted me to not take action because action's scary. And you're going to realize that most of your fears aren't real and they can't hurt you, and the risks aren't real, and the odds of having that catastrophic risk are essentially zero. And you'll look back and you'll be like, all right, wow, that wasn't as bad as expected. And I won. So we're here now, pretty good. Let's talk about those risks. Let's talk about the basic ones. So biggest risk is not taking action. As soon as you stop taking action, you've already lost. So just don't stop trying. You can go listen to the last podcast on failure if you want a little bit of understanding and motivation on that process. Be virtuous. So if you're trying to fuck someone over, there's nothing wrong with self-defense. But if you're acting from a place of hatred and fear and, not being comfortable with yourself and not being comfortable with the outcome of something, not being comfortable is fine, but act out of love. Figure out not how to destroy what hurt you, but how to create a life that's going to heal you. So virtue is really important. You need to act out of love. And that was a big lesson I learned. If you act out of fear, you're only going to create something diseased. If you act out of love, you're only going to heal yourself and become whole. Another risk is, it's not so much a risk as something to understand, is this process is going to have a ripple effect on people around you. You're going to inspire them, for one. You're going to be doing the right thing. You're going to be living to your authentic self. And it is going to be chaotic. Some people are going to come closer. Some people are going to get farther away. You're going to get conflicts. Some people aren't going to. You've been lying to yourself and you've been lying to others about who you are. And it's not a conscious process. It's a coping mechanism. Maybe you're ashamed of part of who you are. And as you start to reveal that true self, they're going to be like, wait, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, who is this person? And you have to make that choice of, do you want to be your true self, or do you want to live within that coping mechanism? To me, it's a pretty obvious choice, but it is going to have effects on the people around you. And overwhelmingly, it's going to be positive. Maybe you lose one relationship, but you build 4 more stronger. Or maybe all of a sudden now you have true friends. Or maybe your existing friends become more comfortable with you and they're like, fuck, man, I'm so glad he figured this out or she figured this out. Another risk is not a risk, but more a principle again. I guess let's retcon this. This is the principles section. Is literally everything is a consequence of your actions. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. Everything that's happening to you right now, the temperature of the room around you, literally the entire environment around you is in some way a consequence of your actions. Even far-reaching things like that kid you never talked to from high school, or politics in some foreign country. There's some part of you that's rippling out, and what you're feeling and what's feeding back to you from the world is a consequence of what you're putting out there. And there's stuff like politics that most of us really don't have any influence over. But when you start to act on the things you do have the most control over, everything starts to change at some level, whether it's just you becoming more positive about things that you can't control, or whether you accept it. You say, oh, well, I really don't need that much to live my ideal life. I'm just going to keep acting in my little circle and grow that little circle. And eventually, when you realize that everything is a consequence of your actions and you're responsible for it, and you can only be responsible for what you can change, it creates this virtuous cycle where the consequences get lesser and better, usually. Consequences don't need to be negative. Some people think the emotions of others are their responsibility, and you do have a responsibility to act with grace, but emotions are fleeting. And if, this is a personal belief, like this is how I this is how I create, and it's not always the most comfortable process, but if you live to the expectations of others, you're never going to meet your own expectations. So if you are worried about like, oh, I'm going to make this person sad, or like, what's my dad going to think if I quit my job, or like whatever it is, right? Like, if you live to someone else's ideal of your life, and if you live to protect their emotions, you're only going to hurt yourself, and that's going to come back and hurt them eventually, because they'll have to realize like, oh, like energetically, it's going to hit them, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe they're just unaware. But either way, it's not going to hurt them if you do your own thing. It might temporarily, but it's gonna, as long as you follow your true and virtuous path, everything will work out in the end. And you can de-risk this one. Just be transparent. Like, hey, I'm thinking about quitting my job. I'm thinking about starting this new thing. I'm thinking about going to the gym. And like, there's like a 1% chance that you'll get a negative response, and like, oh, you're going to hurt yourself. You can't lift weights. You're going to get big and bulky. Like whatever it is, people have these problems with themselves that they want to justify others not succeeding. And that's like 1% of it. But 99% of the time, you're going to get a positive response. And, they're going to be like supportive and like, oh, I know this personal trainer, or, oh, well, if you want a better job, my buddy Jim has this company and they do this thing you'll really like. And, but the gist of the thing you've done for yourself is you've set your intentions clear. They can't come back to you and be like, oh, well, you did this without telling me, and how dare you, and I thought we were close. And it's like, no, I told you what I was going to do, and then I did it. It absolves you of any guilt of lying to people or not being truthful. So that's really important for removing the fear and removing any barriers to you acting. And if they do get mad, if it is someone you trust, get a second opinion. For from someone who's achieved what you want to achieve. Maybe you want to get rich, go talk to someone who's rich, or go, if you don't have access to that person, go watch YouTube videos, or, reach out to people. Ask your friends, oh, do you have a friend who's successful that I can talk to? I'm really trying to make a change in my life. And people who achieve their own dreams are really generous in helping others achieve their dreams. So don't be afraid to reach out. Books are great too. Self-help books have a bad name. Who cares? Help yourself. So thanks for listening, guys. Takeaway here is identify the problem. Don't hide from the problem. Embrace the problem. Accept the problem. Understand the problem. Dig into it. Figure out what the emotions are trying to tell you. Visualize a solution. How's your life going to be better without the problem? And then hypothesize the end goal and your first step to solving that problem, and just take iterative steps one after another. And then act. Take action. Don't stop. Don't give up. And then take feedback and do the whole process over again. Manifestation. Really simple. Now that you're aware of it, keep it in mind. It's going to change your life. It's going to come back to you. Just watching this video has already created the change. Go study it. Go do whatever feels best to start manifesting your dreams. I'm with you every step of the way. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate you all so much. And remember, this show's free. We're on a mission to help others. So if you got value out of this, give it to someone else. Share this with someone else. It will change their life. And you will have done your part to make this world a better place. Thank you all very much.